Imagine stepping into a sleek teleportation pod. A technician gives you a reassuring nod. The machine hums to life, scans every atom in your body down to the last quark, transmits that information at the speed of light to a receiving pod on the other side of the world, and then, in a flash, you are gone. A moment later, someone steps out of the pod on the other side. They have your memories, your personality, your fingerprints, your scars, your loves and regrets. They remember stepping in. They feel perfectly normal. But here is the question that should keep you up at night: is that person you? The teleportation problem is one of the most enduring and unsettling thought experiments in philosophy. On the surface, it seems like a question about future technology. But strip away the science fiction veneer, and what remains is something far more fundamental, a question about the nature of personal identity, the relationship between mind and matter, and what it truly means to persist through time as the same person. The thought experiment was not invented in a single stroke. Its intellectual lineage runs through centuries of philosophy. John Locke, writing in the 17th century, argued that personal identity is grounded in psychological continuity, in memory, in the chain of consciousness that links your present self to your past self. David Hume went further, famously suggesting that the self is nothing more than a bundle of perceptions, a stream of experiences with no unified core. These ideas planted the seeds that the teleportation problem would eventually bloom from. It was the philosopher Derek Parfit, in his landmark 1984 work Reasons and Persons, who brought the modern form of the problem into sharp philosophical focus. Let us slow down and examine exactly what happens during teleportation. The machine does not physically move you. It scans you completely and perfectly, destroying the original in the process, and uses that blueprint to reconstruct you elsewhere from new matter. Every neuron, every synapse, every chemical gradient is replicated with perfect fidelity. The person who emerges on the other side is, by every measurable standard, identical to you. But here is the problem. The original you was destroyed. What emerged on the other side is, technically, a new physical entity, built from different atoms, assembled according to a blueprint, never having had any direct physical continuity with the original body that stepped into the pod. The question is whether psychological continuity alone, the unbroken chain of memories and personality, is sufficient to constitute personal identity. Or does something else, something rooted in physical continuity, also need to be preserved? Consider a simpler analogy. Suppose you scan a document, destroy the original, and print a perfect copy. Most people would intuitively say that the printed copy is not the same document, it is a reproduction. The original is gone. But with a person, things become far less clear, because the document does not care about its continuity. You do. And yet, if the copy is truly perfect, it will believe with complete sincerity that it is the original, because it has all the memories of being the original. Parfit's most devastating contribution to this debate was a simple variation on the basic scenario. Imagine the teleportation machine malfunctions. Instead of destroying you as it creates the copy first, and then destroys you. For a brief moment, both versions of you exist simultaneously. The copy on the other side believes it is you and steps forward to live your life. But you, the original, are still standing in the pod, only to be disintegrated moments later. This variant forces a disturbing conclusion. If you believe that the copy in the functional version of teleportation is genuinely you, then you must accept that in the glitch scenario, the copy is also genuinely you, because from the copy's perspective, nothing is different. And yet in the glitch scenario, the original you is also unambiguously still alive, at least for a moment, and is about to be killed. Which one is the real you? Both have an equal claim. And if both cannot be you simultaneously, then perhaps neither ever was. Parfit drew a startling conclusion from this: perhaps personal identity is not what matters. What we really care about, he argued, is psychological continuity and connectedness, the preservation of our memories, values, and personality. Whether the entity that carries those forward is numerically identical to us in some deep metaphysical sense may be the wrong question to ask. Identity, he suggested, is not a deep fact. It is a matter of degree and description, not of absolute truth. Philosophers have broadly converged on three positions when confronting the teleportation problem, each with serious defenders and serious problems. The first is the psychological continuity view. On this account, what makes you the same person over time is the preservation of your psychological makeup, memories, beliefs, desires, personality. If the teleported person has all of these, they are you. This view has the advantage of matching our intuitions about other cases of identity over time. After all, you are not physically the same as you were at age 5, most of your atoms have been replaced, and your body has changed dramatically. What makes you the same person is the psychological thread connecting past and present. The teleportation machine, on this view, simply threads that needle in an unusual way. The second position is the physical continuity view. Here, identity requires an unbroken physical chain. The teleported person may be psychologically identical to you, but they are not you, because you, the original physical entity, were destroyed. This view appeals to the strong intuition that a perfect copy of you is not you, just as a perfect forgery of a painting is not the original. The original matters, not just the pattern. On this view, teleportation is not travel, it is death followed by the creation of a very convincing replacement. The third position, most radically associated with Parfit himself, is to deny that the question has a determinate answer, and to claim that this does not matter as much as we think. Personal identity, on this view, is a conventional notion that we impose on the world for practical purposes. When cases become sufficiently strange, like teleportation or fission, our ordinary concept simply runs out. The right response is not to force an answer but to ask what we actually care about and whether that is preserved. If you care about your future experiences, your projects, your relationships, a teleported person will have all of those. Whether they are you in some ultimate sense may be a question without a meaningful answer. The teleportation problem is compelling not because teleportation is imminent, but because it illuminates something we almost never examine, the assumptions we carry about our own existence. We move through life with a profound, unquestioned sense of being a continuous self, the same person who woke up this morning, who remembers childhood, who will face tomorrow. We treat this continuity as rock solid. The teleportation problem asks us to look at that foundation and notice how little we can actually say about it. In a sense, you undergo a mild version of this problem every night. When you fall into a dreamless sleep, your stream of consciousness is interrupted. The person who wakes up has memories of being you, but there was a gap, a period of no experience. Most of us are unconcerned by this, because the physical continuity of the brain is preserved. But the teleportation problem asks, is that physical continuity doing the real work, or are we fooling ourselves? Is the person who wakes up after surgery under general anesthesia the same person who went under? We say yes, reflexively. But why? There is also a profound ethical dimension lurking here. If teleportation kills you and creates a copy, then a society that uses teleportation as routine transport is engaged in a practice of mass death, even if no one experiences it as such. Every commuter who steps into the pod is, on the physical continuity view, executing themselves. This has implications not just for science fiction but for how we think about the morality of actions that affect persons. What counts as harm? What counts as death? These are not merely academic questions, they shape law, medicine, and the treatment of persons at every level of social life. Lurking beneath the teleportation problem is an even deeper mystery, consciousness. The physical continuity view and the psychological continuity view both sidestep, to some degree, the question of what subjective experience actually is. Even if we accept that a teleported person has your memories and your personality, we cannot simply assume they have your consciousness, your first-person, subjective experience of being alive. The hard problem of consciousness, articulated by philosopher David Chalmers, points out that no account of physical or functional organization fully explains why there is something it is like to be a person. Why are we not philosophical zombies, beings who process information and behave exactly like humans but experience nothing at all? If consciousness is tied to the specific physical substrate, the exact neurons and their particular history, then a teleported copy might be a philosophical zombie, or might have a numerically distinct stream of consciousness that simply happens to remember being you. Your original consciousness, on this view, would cease the moment the machine fired. On the other hand, if consciousness is purely functional, if it arises from the pattern of information processing rather than the specific matter doing the processing, then the copy would be genuinely conscious and genuinely continuous with you. We do not know which of these is true. And that uncertainty is precisely what makes the teleportation problem so viscerally unsettling. It might be tempting to dismiss the teleportation problem as a futuristic curiosity with no real-world stakes. But the questions it raises are already pressing. As artificial intelligence advances, we are beginning to ask whether digital systems can be conscious, whether minds could be uploaded or copied, and what rights such entities might deserve. If a perfect digital copy of your mind were created and your biological body died, would the digital entity be you? Should it inherit your property, your relationships, your legal identity? These questions will not remain hypothetical indefinitely. Similarly, advances in neuroscience are beginning to challenge our common-sense notions of personal identity. We now know that the self is far more fragmented and constructed than we intuitively feel. Patients with severe amnesia, split-brain conditions, or certain forms of dissociation reveal that personal identity is more of a narrative we construct than a fact we discover. The brain is always, in a sense, assembling a story of the self from incomplete and sometimes contradictory data. The teleportation problem just makes this assembly visible. The teleportation problem does not offer clean answers. That is precisely its value. It pulls at the thread of a certainty most of us have never questioned, the certainty that we exist as a unified, continuous self, and reveals how quickly the whole fabric can begin to unravel. Whether you land on the side of psychological continuity, physical continuity, or Parfit's radical dissolution of the question, you are forced to confront what you actually mean when you say, "I will be there tomorrow." Perhaps the person who steps out of the teleportation pod is you in every sense that matters. Perhaps they are a stranger who sincerely believes they are you. Perhaps the question itself is malformed, a grammatical trick that disguises its own incoherence as a deep puzzle. Whatever your answer, the journey through the thought experiment changes you. And whether or not that means the same you arrives on the other side is, fittingly, a question only you can answer.